It's Wednesday, October 30th, 2013, and this is Arizona Mining Review. I'm your host, Lee Allison, based here in Tucson at the Arizona Geological Survey. And as usual, we have from our office up in Phoenix, Nyal Niemuth, chief of our economic geology section. And Nyal, good morning, and how are things in the mining business in Arizona today?
Good morning, Lee. I'm doing pretty well, but as we've known, for the last many months, we keep hearing of a trifecta of perhaps discouraging news, and that would generally be that we're seeing weak to falling commodity prices, we're seeing rising costs, production costs, and difficulty to access or acquire capital.
Well, Niall, I think the global implications of that are now playing out in Arizona. We've had a couple of bad news stories come out recently, and I think you've been following what's happening with Mineral Park. Can you fill us in on some of the details there?
Yeah, Mineral Park announced that they were going to defer payment of a pretty significant, about $5 million of principal that was due on one of their loans. And they've decided to not really make any assessments until the end of the month, end of October. And so they've hired BMO Capital to look at some possibilities.
Well, before we go into any more details, can you maybe step back? Who is Mineral Park and where are they working and what's the operation? Help put us in context.
We were talking about that earlier, but we should let the audience in on that. Yeah, in northwestern Arizona, we've got a copper, molybdenum, silver property known as Mineral Park that's operated by Mercator Minerals. And it was Mercator Minerals who's in default on their principal repayment.
Okay, great, thanks. So let's go into some more of the detail now.
What they've been struggling with this year is they're not quite operating the mine and mill at the 50,000 ton per day capacity that they like to see, although really production's been going fairly well. The real problem has been about a half of their output by value is molybdenum, and they've seen the price there fall from about $11 per pound to about $9.50 per pound. So that's nearly a 20% drop in their on one side of their revenue. Copper prices are down as well, so that's not helping. And then the other side of it is not only to have that loss in revenue, they're seeing their mining costs go up. They've been in an area of harder ore, so that's more drilling, blasting, higher expenses on that side.
Wow. So what's the prognosis, near term or longer term?
Well, that's why I guess we're going to wait another week and we'll see what we learn. They're looking at all possibilities: sale of the company, sale of assets, or they'd entertain a joint venture. And right now they're under a confidentiality agreement, but they've alluded to that they've had offers. So we'll wait and see what offers they receive and where they go.
Okay, all right. Well, now another one is Copperstone, which more discouraging news.
Yeah, the news there isn't nearly as good. American Bonanza operates an underground gold mine with both a gravity and flotation plant out on the western side of the state between Quartzsite and Parker. And they started that operation up about a year and a half ago. First production was reported in March of 2012.
I was going to say that was an older operation, wasn't it, that they've come back and reopened?
They acquired a lease on a property owned by the Patch Living Trust on a property that was priorly operated as an open pit mine by Cypress Minerals. And during the period that they had it in production, they produced about 500,000 ounces from an open pit. And they knew the mineralization continued down dip, largely to the northeast. And, sometimes part of making money in the mining industry is knowing when to quit. And Cypress did a good job of stopping. They had put in a developmental decline and then decided not to pursue that underground mineralization at the time.
Okay, but the current operation was moving underground, is that correct?
That's right. They had an underground long period of exploration drilling, further defining mineralization down dip. They had brought in an underground mine contractor and had begun development of what they call the C and D zones.
So what's happening now? Where do you see things going?
Well, they've been struggling kind of all along. They weren't happy with the performance of the underground contractor, and they dismissed that party. They brought in their own crew, brought in their own mining equipment, and continued development. And eventually, it stockpiled enough material that they fired up the mill, and that's when that first production occurred a year and a half ago. The kind of the wraparound here is that they need to produce about 1,300 ounces a month to be profitable they had hoped to produce as much as maybe 3,000 ounces a month. They've struggled producing largely between 500 ounces and about 1,200 ounces, no consistent pattern of production for the last 18 months.
And what kind of price break were they looking at the 1,300 ounce a month level?
I think on their feasibility study, they had used something in the $900 an ounce range. And so the price that the price of gold has fallen certainly hurts, but more significant is they haven't been able to achieve the production.
So you can't blame it all just on the decline in gold price in recent months.
No, that gold price certainly, would help if the gold price were up there at $1,800 yet. But the real problem is they're not getting those ounces. The mill's working well. The problem is both production quantities out of the mine as well as the grade they're assaying is not what they expected. It's been lower, probably due to dilution. And then the other part that's kind of the hammer and looks pretty grim, I'm not a financial analyst, but looking through the annual and quarterly reports, they have a fair amount of outstanding loans. As they default on them, the interest rates step up significantly. They were trying to do a $5 million tranche recently, and I've never seen any announcement that they were able to raise that. So I guess we can assume, especially the timing with the closure, that they didn't receive that additional operating capital. So they're operating at a loss, and they've kind of hit a stone wall.
I think that's a challenge we're seeing with all of the small and junior companies, not only Arizona, but around the world, is that with the decline in prices and some of the uncertainty in the financial markets, the investments just aren't there on some of these projects. And so things that in the past might have been able to pull some money and in to help them get through some of the technical challenge, it's just not there, and it looks scary for some of these guys.
Yeah, certainly for many of the Canadian listed juniors, we're expecting a lot of them to run out of cash. And so I know a lot of them have held their properties yet. That was kind of a nice surprise. But there's not much work being done. I'm certainly seeing geologists and drilling companies tell me that things are very, very slow. Perhaps the good news that's on the far horizon, we're also starting to see some of the contrarians, some of the bottom feeders come through, do some research, look at possible acquisitions. I hope by next month's program we can report on some of those positive developments.
Okay, that would be nice. Nyal, as usual, thanks very much for your insights and overview of what's going on, and we'll catch up with you next month and hope we'll have some good news to report on the Arizona mining industry.
We'll go looking for something.
All right, got it. Thanks, Nyal. Well, joining us this morning is Hall Stewart, Vice President of Exploration with Commonwealth Silver and Gold Corporation, based here in Tucson. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Lee.
Tell me about this silver project that you have out near the Tombstone, Wilcox area.
Well, the Commonwealth project is a well-known silver gold deposit. It's an epithermal vein and stockwork system, very, very similar to all of the very famous gold silver systems throughout the Sierra Madre of Mexico.
Aha.
And it's a deposit that was found in 1895 and had its real heyday of production from 1895 to 1926. Mm-hmm. And the project has been very well known. I was actually introduced to it at the U of A field camp many years ago.
Well, and you've spent a lot of your career working in northern Mexico in the Silver Province.
Yeah, that's right. I had the opportunity to work at the Ocampo project, which is in Chihuahua, Mexico, mm-hmm. and is the flagship mine for the company that is now Alrico Gold. And when I started there were some very small mines working at about 10 tons a day.
Wow.
They're currently producing about 15,000 tons a day from both surface and underground.
Okay.
And from Ocampo, I went on to, as that project went into the engineering and final feasibility and pre-construction stages, there wasn't that much work for an exploration geologist, so I asked the company that I was working for, which was an Australian company at the time, if I could just go kick around on my own on a grub stake. And they gave me a grub stake, no salary, but they gave me a finder's fee agreement, and I brought them another project in Chihuahua called Palmarejo. And Palmarejo is now Coeur d'Alene Mine's flagship silver gold project. So both of those projects, both Ocampo and Palmarejo, are geologically very, very similar to where I'm working now.
Okay.
In that they're low sulfidation, epithermal vein and stockwork deposits hosted in Cretaceous tertiary andesites of what in Mexico is known as the lower volcanic series.
Mm-hmm.
And the deposits were formed by heat from the intrusive activity related to the upper volcanic series. So there was a big change in the early tertiary from compressional style tectonics, which drove the laramide orogeny, to extensional tectonics and what's known as the ignimbrite flare-up. So we're at Commonwealth, we're right down by the Chiricahuas, where the Turkey Creek caldera is. And the Turkey Creek caldera and the ignimbrites that were erupted from it are part of the ignimbrite flare-up. And that was the heat source that drove the hydrothermal system for our silver and gold epithermal project.
Okay. Now, you mentioned Commonwealth Mine started back in 1895 or so. And
Right.
my understanding is that that's still like the #2 silver producing mine in the state of Arizona.
That's right. As a primary silver producer,
Okay.
of course, the copper mines have produced far more silver than the primary deposits. Only Tombstone has produced more silver as the primary product than Commonwealth.
And
Commonwealth historically has produced about 12 million ounces of silver and about 140,000 ounces of gold.
okay.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen some of the numbers from your reports, and it looks like you're looking at measured and indicated resources 2 to 3 times that?
Oh, no.
No?
No. Well,
Oh, okay.
of gold and silver content, yes. The tonnage, of course, is much larger because we will be mining lower grades. Our measured and indicated resources right now are 26 million metric tons at 0.47 grams per ton gold.
Okay.
And and 38 grams per ton silver, for a content of 390,000 ounces of gold and 32 million ounces of silver.
Okay, well, that's where I was seeing the 32 million ounces of silver.
So that's where you're getting the 3 times. Yeah.
Right, yeah, 2 to 3
the actual
times.
metal content is about, and we found this at both Ocampo and Palmarejo, which was at the old timers who were, expert underground miners and high quality underground mining engineers. In all of these projects, we have found that they left more metal than they extracted.
Sure, because better technology, better understanding of the resources.
And better exploration technology, the understanding of alteration mineralogy and access to what comparably is much less expensive drilling, and the willingness to drill.
Right.
Okay, this is what finds things. Is you got to drill holes in the ground.
Okay. Now, these the hills are just south of the Wilcox Playa on the location map there, and it's interesting. You mentioned Tombstone was the bigger silver producer. You're not that far from the Tombstone area, so it seems to be it's part of that southern Arizona, northern Mexico silver province here. The interesting thing that caught my attention was it's all private land. It's all patented claims.
That's right.
So to get this mine approved, you don't have to go through the federal permitting system.
That is our intention, and our current understanding of the permitting process as it applies to our project at Commonwealth is that the principal permits that we will need will be the aquifer protection permit, which we're in a very favorable situation, and the air quality permit. Both of those are from the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality.
Right.
Now, the aquifer protection permit, you mentioned that we're just south of the Wilcox Playa, and there's a great deal of agriculture in the Wilcox hydrologic basin. And our project actually lies on the hydrologic divide between the Wilcox Basin to the north and the Douglas hydrologic basin to the south. So we will be able to source all of our water out of the Douglas Basin, minimizing any potential impact to the existing agriculture in the Wilcox hydrologic basin. So we're entirely on private land. The entire resource is contained on patented mining claims. We intend to build all the facilities on private land, and our environmental consulting group, which is Darling Geomatics, they believe that we will be able to not trigger the NEPA permitting process.
Okay.
There is, I'd like to mention another company. There's another company here in Arizona, Northern Vertex. They have the Moss project, and they are also entirely on private land, and they hope to avoid the NEPA permitting process.
Right, because as we've seen, those can stretch out 8-10 years or longer on average,
Right.
Particularly in the western states here. So, okay, so do you have a timeline of to finish your exploration program and start talking about actual development?
Yeah, well, we've just published a new Canadian National Instrument 43101 compliant technical report, which is on our website. And we're now in a preliminary economic assessment. So this is the first stage of a pre-feasibility process. That PEA will be published before the end of 2013. So we're really starting to roll on looking at the mining engineering. We're very advanced with our understanding of the metallurgy and a proposed flow sheet. Given adequate financing, which is an area which we're struggling, we're open to new investment. Given adequate financing, we believe we could have this thing in production in 30 months, 2.5 years.
Would this be an open pit mine underground?
Yes.
Okay.
This will, Ocampo and Palmarejo were both originally designed as open pit mines and have become open pit underground operations where they've just continued down. Our ore deposit is open at depth, and so it's possible that we would go underground in the future. Right now, our conceptual open pit has an extremely low strip ratio. The Whittle pit is less than 1-to-1 strip ratio. As the PEA comes out, we will have an engineered pit with a haul road incorporated, and we think that the strip ratio will go up to about 1.25 to 1. So very, very low strip ratio, very short haul distances. And this will be an open pit heap leach project. About half of the ore will be crushed to -1/2 inch, and the other half of the ore will go through tertiary crushing to about -1/8 of an inch, will be agglomerated and then combined back with the coarser ore to maintain good heap percolation.
Okay. So you mentioned the challenge of getting financing. I think that's true for all the small companies these days. And with the price of metals being so crazy in the last few months and prices dropping, you're in the same boat I think a lot of other small companies are right now. So it sounds like an exciting project. I'm hoping you'll come back to us here as you get into your next phases and we can hear updates and plans on where you're going forward.
Yeah, well, I think that the big news to be looking for would be our preliminary economic assessment, which we'll at least publish highlights of in December. Because we are a private company, we are not a listed company.
Oh, okay.
We're in a very unique situation there as well.
Okay.
Private company, private land, unique permitting situation, unique aquifer protection permit situation. This is a good opportunity.
Wow, that's exciting. All right. Well, Hall, thank you very much for giving us an update and an overview, and we'll look forward to seeing some more news from you here in the near future.
Okay. Well, thank you, Lee.
Great.
Pleasure talking to you.
Good to have you on. Well, next on the show is Steve Rauzi, the Oil and Gas Administrator here at the Arizona Geological Survey. And for those of you who aren't aware of it, the Arizona Oil and Gas Conservation Commission doesn't have any staff of their own. So the survey has been tasked under law to provide all of their technical and administrative support for them. So Steve handles the work for the commission in approving oil and gas wells. And Steve, we've got a new product that's just gone online. It's an online digital oil and gas viewer.
Right.
Okay, tell me about it. What's involved in this?
Well, it's a user-friendly map and text-based search and download function. And it's got about 1,100 well folders that date back to 1905.
That's all the oil and gas wells that have been drilled in the state.
That's correct.
Okay.
That would be wells drilled for oil, gas, stratigraphic wells drilled for subsurface information only,
Okay.
some geothermal wells, and a lot of geothermal heat gradient wells. And from the wells, there's about 2,500 well logs.
Okay.
And the well log is a long strip of paper.
Yeah, and we have one here. So if people haven't seen these before, this one is an induction electric log, and there's a wide variety of these.
Right.
But
So we have about 2,500 of these logs.
Okay.
There'd be resistivity logs, which is what we got here.
okay,
Measures the spontaneous potential electrical resistance of the well bore, and this is the conductivity curve. We also have gamma ray curves, measures the natural gamma ray of the surrounding rock formations. We have density curves, which measure
Okay.
the density of the rock. We have net neutron curves that measure the amount of water in the rock. We have sonic curves.
okay.
When I say curves, I
Right.
mean plots. It's actually taking a measurement and making a plot of the measurement versus depth.
Okay, and so this goes down, it's measured down through the length of the depth of the well, and this one,
Correct.
for instance, that we grabbed, goes down to, it looks like about 5,400 feet or so. So they run a tool, a geophysical tool, down to the bottom of the hole and pull it up,
Pull it
and
back
it's
up.
making all these different readings as it
That's
comes
correct.
up. And then,
And one of the prime functions of these types of curves is correlating subsurface rock units from well to well to well, and from that you can create structure maps, thickness maps. You can also make porosity maps, water saturations, and things like that.
so you look at the shape of these curves and find similar curves on other well logs in other
That's
areas,
correct.
and you can correlate rock units across it.
That's
And then you
correct.
can actually use the
Actual value of
the
the
actual
curve
value.
to get an
of these-
idea of how much oil or gas might be in there based
Or-
on the amount of resistivity or the amount of neutron deflections.
Or the porosity in the rock units or other physical parameters.
That's correct.
So they can be useful not only in oil and gas, but any subsurface geologic exploration.
That's right. We just got finished with a project where we digitized these for carbon sequestration, carbon dioxide sequestration. And so you can use these digital values, put them into, it's basically turns these scanned paper logs, turns them into computer usable data so that they can be read by programs like Petrel or Neurolog, Neureview, and they can be used for not just carbon dioxide sequestration, mining. You could see if there's minerals, potash. Your gamma ray curve would take deflections in potash, uranium, or thorium. Environmental holes, they can use these types of data to detect plumes that might be going out. Hydrologic studies.
Okay.
So there's a whole variety of things that use this kind of subsurface data.
So you said there's been 1,100 wells roughly drilled in Arizona. Only a handful of those have ever produced oil and gas. Most of them were dry holes or
Right.
exploratory holes. But you have over 2,500 well logs, so there's
Right.
2 or more logs run in each well on average, it
That's
sounds like.
correct.
Okay, so all of those now are digital, and they're online, so people can come on and you can search for them by keywords or draw a box on a map and pick out wells.
That's correct. The way the map works is if you click on a well, it'll bring up a pop-up window, and there you'll have the option to download the well folder, which is the completion report, all the correspondence, any of the tests or the core analyses that goes with that well. Also, you'll see gamma ray log. You could click on that and it'll open up the gamma ray log.
Okay,
It'd be just like looking at a scan TIFF image of this log.
okay,
And for all of the wells in the northeast part of the state, we actually digitized these where we actually took these plots and converted them into numeric values every half foot of depth.
every 6 inches.
Yes.
Okay.
And so that could be either opened up in a text file or an Excel file.
Mhm.
But from that, you can do your own calculations. You could take the density curve, you could put in a matrix density, 2.65 for sandstone, 2.8 for dolomite, and you could actually calculate the amount of porosity in that. So, yes.
Okay. So you mentioned now, just to make sure I understand it, most of the wells, the well logs have been scanned as images, but the ones in the northeast part of the state, you've actually gone in and digitized each of those curves on all
That's
of the well
correct.
logs.
Yes, we have all of the wells, we have the scan TIFF images for all of the wells.
Okay.
And for the digital data that we've actually converted into the numeric values, the computer usable data, we have, I think, about 268 wells
Okay.
that we digitized for that.
Okay, so a good 10% or no, actually more than a quarter of the wells.
Right.
Right. Okay.
We made pretty good progress in this project we were working on.
All right. What's the deepest well ever drilled in Arizona?
Oh, that would be the Phillips well, A1 State by Florence. It went to 18,000 feet.
Wow. And they didn't find any oil and gas,
No,
obviously.
unfortunately.
Okay, but we have all of the well logs and the well history and all of that, and that's now digital.
That's
and
correct.
available.
That's correct. They could load, if someone knows the API number, or they know the name of the operator, or they know the permit number, or they have a certain section, township, and range, they can enter that into the text search function, and it will bring that well up.
Okay.
If you just have a general idea of where you're looking in the state, you can use the map search, and you can select a series of wells,
Right.
and that will come up in a table below the map. And then you have in that table the well file that you can click on, and it'll open it up, and then you can download it to your computer, and the well logs. So it's very user-friendly.
All right, that sounds great. So what's next?
We'll find something. We'll figure
Yes.
something out.
Right, no, it's a long time coming. That's an exciting project.
Yeah, we do not have all of the wells converted to the digital data, so that
Okay.
would be next to complete that part of the digitizing process.
Right, get them all in true digital form, not just an image of it.
We could also look forward to possibly e-permitting, where you could permit wells electronically rather than do it hand. So these are some things in the future.
Well, this sounds like it's going to be a project really aimed, in one sense, towards exploration companies who want to explore for anything in the subsurface across Arizona, and also for anybody who's just trying to do general geologic research. It gives you an opportunity to pull together the three-dimensional picture of Arizona and include it with the surface mapping that's so pervasive. So, well, congratulations. It's a long time coming, but it's a project that I think is getting a lot of attention in the resource industry and with other state and federal agencies who need this information to make some really good land use and land management decisions.
And people will not need to physically come to this office in order to get hold of that data.
Right. Up until now, all the files were just outside our studio here and in paper files lined up on the walls and in file cabinets, and this now makes them available worldwide.
That's right.
Okay. Steve, thanks very much.
Well, thank you, Lee.
All right. Thanks for tuning in today. Our producer-director is Mike Conway, broadcast engineer Jordan Maddy, behind the camera today, Jenna Favell, and as usual, our set and logo design and graphics done by Stephanie Marr and Arnie Bermudez. We look forward to seeing you again next month on Arizona Mining Review.